أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور
أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير.
13,000 years ago, there was a more advanced form of human civilization. How advanced is hard to say, but we know they could do stuff with stone that we really cannot. And then what happened? Suddenly, there was a catastrophe. Something terrible happened. The oceans rose, temperatures dropped, populations were wiped out, cities were abandoned. Time goes by, civilization recovers, we get into hunter-gatherer mode, we get into agriculture, city-states. Okay, so it's a story, right? It's a good story? Maybe, maybe not. But what does the science tell us? Well, to begin with, we have great data showing the oceans were 100 meters lower 15,000 years ago. 100 meters, 330 feet. That means the ancient coastlines and islands are now completely submerged. Secondly, Greenland ice cores and mid-Atlantic sediment samples show us that there was a sudden drop in temperature, and it lasted for 1,000 years or so around the world. Thirdly, the male DNA has clues. Around the world, the diversity of the male DNA drops precipitously, again, around 13,000 years ago. It wasn't just here or there, it was around the world. A lot of men were not passing on their DNA to future generations. That declined, and then it began to recover. So what could have happened that could explain all of these things? Well, we have evidence that something hit North America, a comet or a meteorite. It left very distinctive particles all over the hemisphere. It set a lot of stuff on fire because there's very distinctive soot and ash particles found right there as well. We have seen 500,000 impact craters, ranging from New Jersey all the way down to Alabama, like a giant cosmic shotgun blast hit our planet. Like a giant cosmic shotgun blast hit our planet.
أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير.
Every culture has a flood myth. Long before Noah built the ark, a great flood turned up in Mesopotamia in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The ancient Sumerians, Egyptians, Greeks, Hindus, they all have a legend of a deluge that wiped the earth clean. The flood myth really is worldwide. The Norse have their own version of the Noah's Ark story. The Inca, the Aztec, tribes across America, Japanese, Chinese, Hawaiian, Australian Aboriginal. This is just to name a few, the list is much longer. Now, the legends vary, but they're all basically the same plot. People are misbehaving, so a flood is sent to wipe them out and start over with a few survivors. But we're pretty sure the flood really happened. But some of the flood legends have a twist. Those legends say that before the flood, there were advanced civilizations who flourished on their own continents, while primitive humans were still figuring out stone tools. Atlantis was a powerful and advanced island nation. It was larger than Asia and ruled by the descendants of gods. Atlantis was prosperous and technologically advanced, but the people became corrupt, prompting the gods to sink the island into the ocean in a single day and night of catastrophic earthquakes and floods. Lemuria was a huge continent in the Pacific Ocean. Lemuria was home to a spiritually advanced civilization that was sometimes ally and sometimes enemy of Atlantis. And then there was Mu. Mu is a continent either in the Pacific Ocean or Indian Ocean. It was once inhabited by an advanced civilization. The survivors of Mu brought their wisdom and began the civilizations of ancient Egypt and the Maya. Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu are all similar stories in that they were highly advanced civilizations. All existed around 9600 BC, all destroyed by a great flood. But in all three stories, there are a few survivors.
You disbelievers are like those before you. They were stronger than you in power and more abundant in wealth and children. They enjoyed their portion of worldly enjoyment, and you have enjoyed your portion as those before you enjoyed their portion, and you have engaged in vanities like that in which they engaged. It is those whose deeds have become worthless in this world and in the hereafter, and it is they who are the losers.
There's a godlike teacher who comes from the sea to help restart civilization. And these saviors or teachers or whatever you want to call them, they all appear after the Great Flood at the end of the Younger Dryas. And they all transfer wisdom and knowledge to the primitive people that they meet and restart civilization. And there's more evidence. The cultures around the world seem to have been given the same knowledge. Seems like a big coincidence.
We don't believe in those.
We don't. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, Bangkoklu Tarla, a bustling city, appears in Turkey. Karahan Tepe, with its homes and halls and magnificent art, appears. And Göbekli Tepe is built, an entire complex dedicated to the star Sirius. And within the complex, 10-ton stone pillars that tell the story of man, the fire from the sky, the flood that swallows the earth, and of civilization given a second chance. The pillars also offer a warning for future generations. For us, all that has happened before will happen again. The builders gave us symbols on stones and told us to watch the sky. They showed us the constellations to study. They gave us the exact date of the last disaster so we could prepare for the next one, because there's always a next one. The images carved in the stone pillars could be a guide to ensure humanity's survival. But if all that's true, why was it all intentionally buried? Around 10,000 years ago, the people of Göbekli Tepe took up a massive project. They filled in the entire compound with stone and debris. Then they covered it with earth and mud to make it seem like it was never there. There are two theories for why they did this. One, to preserve it, or two, to hide it.
أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير.
There absolutely could have been someone else here long ago. Now, we've talked before about how it would take only about 10,000 years before all evidence of the human race is gone. But here's the thing about that number. Civilization disappearing in 10,000 years assumes the Earth is peaceful. If one of these years the torrid meteor shower threw a rock at us, like it did during the Younger Dryas, well, it wouldn't take 10,000 years to erase our civilization. We'd be gone in a day. Here's how it happens. It's a brisk November evening. Maybe this year, maybe 20 years from now, it doesn't matter. Every November, the Earth passes through the Taurid meteor cloud, and the Earth's sky lights up. People gather all over the world to see the event. Meteor watching parties are common. You and a few friends decide to get together and see the show. The sky does not disappoint. Shooting stars zip across the night sky like fireflies. There are even larger comets that streak by for a full second or two before burning out. And once in a while, a big one. It's a fireball that lights up the sky, and for a moment, night turns to day. Now, everyone's heart races, but fireballs like these are known to happen during the Taurid shower. People remember the Taurids of 2015. That year, fireballs hit the Earth in swarms. In 2020, a Taurid fireball exploded over Japan that sounded like a bomb going off. That one set off car alarms for miles. You continue to watch the sky and notice the shooting stars getting denser, thicker, then a fireball, then another. You feel a little anxiety, but the Taurid meteors have been happening your whole life, and they've been nothing more than a light show. Then another fireball. This one looks like it's close. It vaporizes in a flash of light so bright that you have to shield your eyes. You and your group of sky watchers giggle nervously. Then 3 seconds later, a crack, then a boom. So loud you feel it in your stomach. Everyone agrees. This was fun, but let's go home. But now there's another fireball. Everyone turns to see. This one is different. It's not really streaking across the sky, it's expanding somehow. No, it's not expanding, it's coming closer. It comes closer and closer, and there's no way to tell how big it is. From where you're standing, it's like a mountain made of fire. Just as panic sets in, it disappears somewhere over the horizon. You let out a deep sigh. You didn't realize it, but for the past 30 seconds, you've been holding your breath. You and your group are now frantically gathering your belongings. That was more than enough excitement for one evening. You even ask yourself if you even want to do this again next year. But that question has already been answered for you. You just didn't know it yet. Over the horizon, where the fireball disappeared, a ball of light emerges. Everything is lit up like the day. No, brighter than that. It's so bright, everything is just white. The ball of white light grows larger and larger, and you feel something deep in your brain. That part of your brain that evolved 2 million years ago, that lizard brain. It sends you a single message: run. You run. About 3,000 miles away, there has been an event. The meteor hits and vaporizes everything around the impact point for miles. Water, rock, cities, all vanish. Then the shockwaves start. Earthquakes radiate out from the impact point over and over again as the Earth reverberates like a bell. These earthquakes move faster than the speed of sound. They're so powerful, they disrupt the tectonic plates of the Earth. That sets off a chain reaction of earthquakes and volcanoes across every major fault line. Forget LA and San Francisco. The San Andreas will either eat or burn the entire California coast. Then you've got the Cascadia subduction zone in the Pacific Northwest, the Hayward Fault, the Calaveras Fault, the Garlock, the Wasatch. They all erupt. From western Canada to Baja, Mexico is leveled. Everything within 20 miles of the coast crumbles into the sea. Then the shock waves roll back around the planet again, and again, and again. The biggest fault system in the United States is the New Madrid seismic zone. The most powerful earthquakes in US history have come from here. When that fault goes, say goodbye to Chicago, Indianapolis, St. Louis, and down to New Orleans. All gone, crumbled, on fire, or underwater. The New Madrid fault connects to the Ramapo fault in the east and sets it off like a fuse. Ramapo extends through Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Then the Charleston Fault in South Carolina goes next. From Boston to Seattle, from Maine to Miami, and everything in between, earthquakes rock the country over and over again. And this is happening everywhere in the world. Then comes the wind. A Category 5 hurricane has wind speeds of 150 to 160 miles per hour. A Cat 5 hurricane is going to seem like a gentle afternoon. Rushing around the planet is a storm with winds over 1,000 miles per hour. This is called the air blast. Anything wooden is gone. Cars, boats, people, all gone. Only the sturdiest stone structures could survive the wind, but most stone structures have already been turned to rubble by the earthquakes. In some places, the wind lasts for 16 hours, and within the wind is everything. Buildings, cars, trees, everything. It's a food processor that pulverizes everything for hours. What happens next goes one of two ways. Option 1, the rock hits solid Earth. Now, if that happens, heat and ejecta cause wildfires for thousands of miles around the impact point. Radiating out from the center is a fireball moving at twice the speed of sound. This fireball is hotter than the surface of the sun. A land impact also launches millions and millions of tons of ejecta into the atmosphere. In fact, millions of tons of molten rock will leave the atmosphere and go into space. The rock cools and forms a shell of debris in orbit around the Earth. No more space station, no more satellites. The ejecta that remains in the atmosphere blocks out the sun for months. But it only takes a few days for plant life to start dying. The entire food chain is disrupted within a week and completely collapses in a month. All food is gone. And that's a land impact. Option 2 is an ocean impact. This is probably worse. The rock hits, vaporizes the ocean water, and collides with the bedrock. The earthquakes begin like before, but what's really dramatic is the tsunami. But it's much more than a tsunami, more than a mega tsunami. What this is, there's really no name for it. A wall of water rises about 1.5 miles in the air. The water would be higher than the clouds if there were clouds. The shock waves and air blast dissipated all the clouds, leaving only dark streaks of smoke that turn the sky blood red. The wall of water extends in all directions. It moves at 500 miles per hour. By the time it makes landfall, it's even higher. As the water tears across the land, it collects debris. Every object the water touches is captured and becomes part of the wave. Within minutes, the front face of the wall is a solid mass of debris moving hundreds of miles per hour. The devastation is extreme. As the Earth reverberates, the secondary waves begin. These are smaller waves compared to the first, but they're still hundreds of feet high, and they pummel the coasts over and over and over again. About 24 hours later, the Earth settles. Volcanoes continue to erupt, and there are thousands of earthquake aftershocks, but most of the violence is over. This is the worst day in human history. But here's what's really scary. The scenario I just described has happened many times. So a question for the skeptics: how much evidence of human civilization would be left after this type of event? Skeptics say there would be evidence of trash, plastic, and steel. But would there? After the comet strike, the fireball, the shock waves, the 1,000-mile-an-hour wind, the string of mega tsunamis, I'm not sure how much of anything would be left after that. Now, you would think that this event would leave a mess of debris across the landscape, but it would be nothing like that. The land would be pristine. Well, pristine in a way. From horizon to horizon is mud. Nothing but mud. Everything has been pulverized into dust. Any object larger than a basketball is buried under mud 1,000 feet deep.
أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير